I am Eden Zenz. I live in a family of 5, along with a bearded dragon named Cleo, which is short for a really long name. I love music and theater. I love doing crafts and DIYs. And I also love caring for people. I've known about God my whole life and who he was and what he did. From a young age, my parents told me about God and how they highly encouraged me to welcome God into my life and live my life with him in it. I knew that a life with God would lead me to good things, but I didn't know how much this was true and also how desperately I needed him. In middle school, I started to understand just how much I needed community, and especially a God-centered community. Maranatha had always been one of my favorite things to look forward to every summer, and I was devastated when I heard that it was canceled this year. I cried a lot because Camp Maranatha was the first place where I really encountered God, and it was one of the few places where I felt like I could really be myself. My 7th grade year at Maranatha was one of the best because it was when I really found God. What's really cool was that I found him in a super amazing way. I found him right smack dab in the middle of my community, my middle school youth group. The nighttime chapel at Maranatha was always my favorite because I felt like I connected in different ways to everything that was happening during the service, even from the games to the worship songs they played at the end. I just felt welcomed, but the place where I felt most welcomed was when the worship happened. While the band was playing worship was when I had a huge encounter with God. During one song, the Spirit just filled my heart and the space around me, and I could feel the love as I was singing my heart out in worship to him. Then I heard God say that I should turn around, but I ignored him a few times. And then the 3rd time, I did. I saw someone crying, so I went over to them, and we hugged and cried together until everyone else was gone. I'm so happy that I turned around because doing that, I found a new best friend, I found God through community, and most important of all, I felt so cared for by God. This is an experience that I will never, ever forget because so many crazy great things came out of it. It's the experience that shaped me into who I am today. Since God cared for me so much, I want to care for others like how he cared for me. Because of God, I am cared for. Being cared for by anyone is the greatest feeling because it makes me feel so special. There are almost no words to describe the feeling of being cared for by God. Because God cared for me, I care for others no matter who they are, what they look like, or how old they are. They are all the same to me. Can we talk about babies for a second? Ever since I could hold a baby, I wanted to care for all the babies. But I wouldn't realize until later on that that was going to be what I truly love to do. I've always been told that I'm a compassionate person who makes people feel welcome. As it turns out, I have basically been caring for babies, toddlers, and even middle schoolers for most of my life. I knew I liked caring for people, but when God came and showed up for me in such a specific and special way at Maranatha, it's like he gave me a firm foundation to stand on, knowing who he was and knowing who I was. I have gotten many opportunities to care for others, and it has been the most rewarding thing. At my school in 7th grade, I got the most wonderful opportunity to be a peer tutor to kids with special needs. There was an option when picking my classes where I could pick 2 electives, and being a peer tutor was one of them. I wanted to take an entire class period just to be with kids that some people might say that they don't fit in. I can't stand it if somebody says that because working with kids with special needs is one of the best things that I have ever gotten to do. There were some days when I would walk into the classroom and the kid that I was assigned to for helping would run to me and give me the biggest hug. Or I would walk in and there was a huge smile on her face and we would laugh together. The best memory I have is when she would be grumpy for others, but when I came and helped her, she was on her best behavior. That meant the world to me. It was not easy though. There were times when she could make me cry because she wouldn't work with me, or she told me she wanted some space. And so I had to give her space, but that was so hard. I had to learn many things myself, and it was so hard, but that was all part of God's plan. Despite all those struggles, the most rewarding part for me was seeing her grow in everything that I taught her. I felt so accomplished in what God had called me to do. And get this, God didn't make us to know what good things lay ahead of us. He made us so that we have to go through the hard things first to get to the good. And after we go through the hard things, we get to truly enjoy the good things that follow. This is true for lots of things in life. You can be cared for by anyone in any way. Everyone is cared for by God. Some of you might know that and some of you might not, but whoever you are, you still get to hear that because it is so true. It will certainly not be in the same way I felt cared for. You will feel cared for in a completely different way, but it's going to be in a way that is just the perfect and right way that He has planned for you. You also don't get just one time to be cared for, you get an unlimited amount of times, and I can tell you that from experience. There have been a countless number of times where I've needed God so much because I couldn't go through whatever was happening alone. But do you know what He did? He cared for me. When I have been at my lowest, He has kneeled down close to me, whispered His love to me, put His arm around me, and helped me stand back up. I know that this is who He is, and I believe that He will never change. We are all His sons and daughters, and no one and no thing will ever change that. For me, caring for others makes me feel so ecstatic, and that's because I am doing the thing that I love to do. And part of being ecstatic is that I hope that the person feels cared for the way I feel cared for. I know that God cares for you, and He always will. Even when you might feel like no one cares about you, He does. I am Eden Zenz, and I am cared for by God. But this isn't just who I am. We are Cornerstone students, and we are cared for by God. This is who we are.